Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes. Great song. Thanks, Brad.
Go, Brad.
Okay. Yeah. Go, Brad. Brad created that song all on his own. It's his original. It's the only part of the podcast that he really loves, I think. Just kidding. Hello. How you doing, Alana?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. We got very formal there. I'm fine, thank you. And how are the children? Just kidding. You don't have kids.
Abigail.
Oh, she's back already, dearest Abigail. Coming back from last week.
Coming back.
I mean, you kind of have children.
I have furry children. And
a ton of them,
children, too. And feathery children. I have the zoo.
Can you say which ones are which?
Yeah. So we got 2 dogs, 2 cats, a snake, and 4 chickens.
Yep.
So
I always forget that there's 4 chickens. I think I've only ever seen 3.
Yeah.
I don't know which one I'm always missing, but
yeah, it's a zoo over here.
It's legit. So if anybody is a new listener, welcome.
Hi.
You're probably just a cousin of mine, but hello. Just remind everybody what we're doing. So we're true crime podcast. However, the difference is that Alana hates true crime.
It's true.
And she's here anyway because she's a good friend. And so what we do to make it work for her is I do all the research. So she goes into the episodes when we record and doesn't know anything about them.
Clueless.
She knows, yeah. I don't even tell her the names. Today's a little different. I had to tell her, when I told her the idea of doing this, I had to tell her a couple examples. The first episode we did with Helen Ruth Spence was an example, and then the woman today was an example to get her to consider it. So other than that, though, she just knows basic details, and she never even knows anything else for the other episodes. And also, we focus on the woman's story, so that we're cutting out all of the Jeffrey Dahmers and the Ted Bundy, so she doesn't have to listen to that. And I also, if it's a gory detail, I'll let her know, and she's gonna mute her headphones so she won't hear it, but we will. And she brings something she loves to the podcast, which is tea. And so she brings the tea time, and I bring the crimes.
Yeah,
and
baby.
I told her today, she did know the name of the woman, so she knew a little bit of the story, and I told her to bring the coolest tea around. So what did you come up with?
All right, this is a lot of pressure, but I think I came up with something good. So we'll ignore the first part of the title of the tea, but it's a healing hibiscus cocktail. So I went with it because it's a cocktail. It's pretty cool. You know, we're in the 20s-ish. So
we will be, yes. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Or are we? Maybe we're time travelers. Anyways.
We always time travel on our podcast.
So it's a pretty cool package.
Yeah, right? I guess it is. We'll post a picture of it. It looks like a rainbow.
The tea bag is actually really cool, and I got a picture of that, so I'll share that. The ingredients
Why is it cool?
Well, I can show you if you'd like.
Well, yeah, but
you can
then
see
I have
all
to
the
describe
ingredients inside.
Oh, you love when they do that. She really loves an open concept tea bag. That's her jam. Yeah, it just looks like you picked up some dirt off the floor and put it in a bag.
Excuse me, there's pink in it. You don't find pink in dirt. All right. How rude. Okay, so the ingredients. Rooibos.
Oh, boy.
Honeybush. Lemongrass. Ginger. Lemon. Verbena. Hibiscus. And rose petals. Because we cool like that. That's the cocktail. And it's a nice colored tea. It's
what color is it?
It's purpley.
Ooh.
I can't really tell on
camera. I can't
see.
No, she just tried to hold the cup up to the to the camera. It didn't go well. No, I can't
That's how I end up spilling it on myself and burning my legs. So.
And the microphone.
All right, are we ready?
Now she's inhaling. Go ahead, do your sniff.
I'll do it near the microphone because I know our listeners love it.
Yep. Okay.
I smell lemongrass and the lemon.
That's it. I can smell that in my head. We're not in the same room. That's why I
no,
say that.
We're not in the same state. I
can imagine that.
All right, let's try it.
Here we go, folks.
Okay, so the immediate notes are what you get when you smell it, right? The lemongrass and the lemon. But then a little later, you can taste like the floral afternote, the rose, and then some hibiscus fruitiness.
I'll never tire of you saying after.
She's trying not to laugh right now if you can see her on camera.
They can't.
And this tea, again, no body. It's a caffeine 0 out of 5. So no body, very light. It's nice. This could go hot or iced. I think it's nice. It's smooth.
Smooth. Okay, so this is 2 no bodies in a row.
Yeah.
Better bring the body next time.
I'll bring the body. But this is the coolest tea. I mean, it's a hibiscus cocktail. Come on.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I think after a night of drinking with bootleggers, you probably will want a healing hibiscus cocktail.
That's exactly. Yeah. And the origin is Canada, if that matters. Just if you want to know.
Oh, actually, I do say the word Canada today.
Okay. Well, look at
you
me,
always
mind
do
reader.
How do you know?
Hey, maybe I'm a time traveler.
Oh man, you're good. So with that, we'll bring us into the 1920s. Well, first,
excited for this one.
Yeah, it'll take us a minute to get to the 1920s, but today, this one's so good. We're talking about Stephanie St. Clair, or Madam Queen.
I mean, come on.
Coolest name.
If you think about it, it's kind of like a superhero name. So her superhero name is Madam Queen. Mm-hmm. And then her everyday name, like Clark Kent. What did you say, Stephanie?
Stephanie St. Clair.
Stephanie St. Clair.
Which is a cool name in itself.
That's what I'm saying. All right, superhero, cool.
I mean, and she can pull off being called Madam. So I love her already. But let's get into it because she's just the best. Okay, so she kind of appears in mystery and vanishes in mystery, and then the middle is all of the juice. Oh, that reminds me real quick. Yeah, Brad, my husband, edits this for us, and he has to take out all of Alana's tea swallows, and he says they sound. He described them as juicy and disgusting.
Was it disgusting? I thought it was another word.
Maybe. Oh, maybe disturbing.
Yeah,
juicy and disturbing. That was it.
Yep.
Anyway,
I try to gulp away from the microphone, but I don't think
whatever you're doing, it's not working. But I mean, I tell him leave some in because I think
it's tea time crimes. Come on.
Yeah, and your swallowing is a crime. Okay, back to St. Clair.
It's true.
Anyway, so she appears in mystery. So nobody knows for sure when she was born. There's a huge age range. It's like me counting. I mean, it's maybe in the middle of the 1880s, maybe all the way up to the late 1890s. Nobody's
Great
sure.
Records.
And she doesn't tell her age because that's how she rolls.
Because she's a madam.
Yeah. And she was either born in the West Indies or possibly France. Okay. Nobody's sure. Okay. So she grew up and worked in the home of a white family. Stephanie St. Clair is black. And the story goes that she was actually raped by the son of that family.
Kill him.
And that was probably the inciting incident that caused her to move, and she moved to Canada in 1911.
Where she had a hibiscus cocktail, probably.
Well, not yet. She probably doesn't need the cocktail yet, but she'll get to it. But when she's in Canada, so nobody knows how old she is. She could have been 15 to in her 20s. Nobody's sure.
Okay.
She's in Canada for about a year. It's hypothesized that possibly she was part of a program that recruited women for domestic work. in Canada, and they would be paid about $5 a month, and they do it for a year or two.
Jeez.
But again, no record of this. This is just something that was happening at the time that seemed like a likely way for St. Clair to get to Canada. But who knows? And then in 1912, that's when she settled in Harlem.
Yeah,
This is where
baby.
it starts getting good. So she learns English, obviously.
Because she spoke French before?
Yeah, she spoke French.
Kind of like me.
I'm guessing she would have crushed last week and put you to shame with your French pronunciation of the T. But I guess I don't know. And so here you start to first see and hear stories. I don't know which, I feel like with any kind of legend, there's the myth from the facts. So I'm not sure which one of these are 100% accurate, but here are the stories that were coming up around her to show you how strong she is. So we already know what she's survived and and she's moved, and now she's in Harlem, and she's taught herself to speak English, and she's in this new city all alone. Her first boyfriend that she had when she came to New York tried to get her into prostitution.
Nice.
And she said, "No thanks," and then stabbed him in the eye with a fork.
Yeah, she did. I love it.
Apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. If that's not true, that's the kind of energy that we're channeling.
Oh, yes.
But then, sadly, she actually left town on a bus, and that bus was, the story goes that the bus was pulled over by the KKK, and Stephanie was assaulted again and raped again.
No,
I know, that's the last of it. I'm sorry, but I'm just wanting you it's important to see how much of a survivor she is and how strong she is, and these things are happening to her. So she was married for a brief period in the early 1920s, but it doesn't matter. It was just a blip in her story. By 1922, she starts getting herself in the numbers business. So what is the numbers business? So it's essentially the lottery. And it's thought to be what the lottery is actually based on. So I'm going to try to explain it. It's a super simple concept, but for some reason, I'm terrible at explaining it. It's very confusing to me. It's with numbers. I mean, you get a ticket. Okay. So you can basically pick a 3-digit number from, between 1 and 1,000. You can any combination. And then depending on which number game you're playing, some sort of publicly published number would be the deciding factor. So lots of times they're called bankers, the people who run the numbers game. Lots of times the bankers would pick something from that was published at the end of the day from the clearinghouse or from the treasury or from the racetrack, and it would be known beforehand what they were going to use, and then it would be some combination of those numbers. So it would be like the second digit of the United States Treasury balance and the third and fourth digit of something from the stock exchange. And then those would make a 3-digit number, like 765. And if you had bet on 765, you would win. Yeah, the lottery. And the bets were small, too. They were a penny, usually. So if you bet a nickel, that was big time.
Oh, wow.
Big time. But the payouts were, if you bet a penny and you won, you basically probably get $6. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a big payout, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, nobody knows how she funded this to start. There's a lot of theories. Some say she had, side hustles and just saved. Others say that she won a lawsuit and used that to bankroll it. And then others say she won a numbers game herself. Nobody knows.
Interesting.
The fact that she's doing this is unbelievable because her competition here is all men and a lot of white men.
Sure. It's the 20s.
Right? Yeah. And so what is fascinating here, I read a book by the historian LaShawn Harris. It's called Sex Workers, Psychics, and Number Runners, Black Women in New York City's Underground Economy.
Okay.
And St. Clair is featured as one of the main players of the underground economy. And so at this point in time, right, women have very few choices, especially women of color.
Yeah.
And they are using these kinds of jobs, the underground economy, as they're called, for a couple things, right? They are up against economic disparity, poverty, race, gender, and class discrimination all at once. And so with these kind of underground economy jobs, they get a little bit of financial independence, financial stability. They're paid more than working a, unskilled laborer job.
Sure.
And they also get time.
What do you mean?
So they get time back and they don't have to work as long.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which is so they can actually work, make more money, and then have time to be with their family or have time to do something enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like actually go out and do something.
Go have
and that's
a hibiscus cocktail at the lounge.
Yeah, enjoy a hibiscus cocktail if you want to. But by making these choices to be involved, they are often subject to a lot of trauma from mostly white men, police, and then other competitors in the community who are trying. I mean, it's high stakes.
Yeah.
So St. Clair is this example, though, of somebody who had been surviving and then said, okay, I'm doing this myself, and now she's thriving. And she's found a total way around all the crap in the middle.
Especially from those two inciting incidents.
Yes. And on top of it, the numbers game, there was so much discrimination around the credit space for Black people that this numbers game is actually a way for them to invest their money. So if you won in the numbers game, it could change your life. You could pay off your debts. You could send one of your kids to school. You could open up a business.
Right. That's so cool.
Right. It was a way for that community in Harlem at the time to try and take care of their families and their lives and do something that they wanted to do and try to work around the system that was in place. So,
right, all the obstacles for them.
Right. So on top of that too, which is interesting, is the author LaShawn Harris said that a lot of women in these roles would often take on kind of more of a masculine and bend the gender norms role because they had to be tough.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating about St. Clair is she was, instead of just, doing one or the other, saying, oh, I'm going to be the damsel in distress or I'm going to be, really tough. She just upped both of them. And so she was always the lady. Fur coats, gowns, high heels, jewels.
Madam Queen.
Yeah, madam. Exactly. That's how she earns it. And at the same time, though, she was a lady until she needed to be something else. And then it was said that she had profanity on the tip of her tongue if she needed it. And she could swear in 3 languages, French, English, and Spanish. And she was more than happy to take off her jewels and fight you if it needed to be done.
She's the tough damsel. There you go.
Yeah, she is. So she did both. Like, she really kept up this whole feminine air. But at the same time, no, I'm going to take care of business.
Hero.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. So St. Clair's running her numbers business. She also happens to be an incredible businesswoman. Honestly, it's impressive. So she's employing a ton of people. So the way the business works is, right, she's at the top, she's the banker, she's the money. And then she has number runners, and they would run out and take the bets. So there would be places in town or the city where you would place the bets, like a cigar shop or market. And the runners would collect the bets, collect the money, and they'd take it to the controllers. And then the controllers would keep the ledger, keep the balances, track everything down.
Wow,
and then the numbers would be published at the end of the day, and they'd pay out, and then it'd start all over again. So she was employing a lot of people. On top of that, to be involved in this, she had to have bodyguards.
Yeah, this is legit.
Right. Yeah. Enforcers. I mean,
I can just picture it.
There's a whole staff that she's working with. And she was said to, obviously with her earnings from the numbers, she put it back in the business, but she also invested it in other places. So she's buying apartment buildings. She's
Long-term
investing in
wealth,
projects.
Baby.
Yeah, she's investing in projects that she likes within the community.
It's amazing.
And she's a huge, huge supporter of the community. So she's trying to support businesses that are owned by Black families. And she also is said to be super generous if somebody, she didn't advertise it, but if somebody needed help, it was not unlike her to pay their hospital bill.
Wow. She's so
So
cool.
I know, she's pouring all this money back into the Harlem community and takes it serious. So at her height, honestly, she was said to be probably worth $500,000, which would be about $8 million.
Oh my God.
She's legitimately a millionaire. Wow. Very good at what she does. Yeah. And okay, this is where it starts to get dicey and you just see her strength. So in the late 20s, one of her competitors, his name was Casper Holstein, he was attacked. 4 white men told him they were detectives and that they had to take him to the station.
No.
They put him in the car. They took him to the station, but they didn't go to the station, obviously. No. They take him somewhere else and they hold him for ransom. He was wealthy enough to pay the ransom. It was $50,000.
Oh my God, that's going to be so much.
Which is a huge amount of money in the late 20s.
Yeah.
And he actually was returned safely. So that seems like, well, that's a pretty boring story. I mean, exciting for a minute, but the problem is that story got a lot of press because it was such a large amount of money. And it shocked people at the amount of money that was in this kind of numbers game at the top.
Yeah.
And so what happened is the white mobsters, gangsters, took notice of this. And they had originally left Harlem alone.
I see where this
because
is going.
There's nothing there, right?
Right.
It's not worth their time, or it's not worth their money. But now they realize that, it is. There is some money there. So one guy in particular, they called him Dutch Schultz, but his real name was Arthur Flegenheimer.
Wow. I get why you changed the name there.
It's the most non-gangster name you could ever pick. Like, if you're trying to kill somebody and your name's Mr. Flegenheimer, it's not as convincing. Anyway, and Dutch Schultz was named after another gangster who was particularly violent. So Schultz had been born in 1902, and his father had abandoned the family when he was a teenager, and he dropped out of school and started stealing to help his family. And he went to prison pretty early for that.
Okay.
When he got out, he started bootlegging, and bootlegging isn't necessarily a violent offense. It's kind of like running the numbers.
Should we describe what it is? I don't know if everybody knows what bootlegging means.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, selling liquor during Prohibition?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe, I mean, they could have skipped their 1920s U.S. history. I don't know.
Gosh, I'm glad you're here. Yeah. So he forms all these gangs and just starts using violence on the club owners, basically forcing them to buy from him.
Gotcha.
So he's got a taste for the violent streak, and and he actually is technically in the territory of Lucky Luciano.
These names are amazing.
I know, yeah. And Lucky is more of a businessman and doesn't really love this.
I'm a businessman.
Is that from something?
I don't think so.
That's from your brain. Nailing it. Perfect. So that just kind of got a wild streak. Anyway, once he finds out that all this money is in Harlem.
Oh no. Leave him alone.
Yeah. He wants to get involved.
Yeah.
But Harlem at that point is predominantly Black, and he sticks out as a white man walking around Harlem.
Segregation's very alive right now, too.
Nobody wants to do business with him because he's not from Harlem. But what he does is he has connections in the police department.
Of course he does.
Now, well, so they all do, honestly. St. Clair, just like all of the people in the numbers game, they will pay the police every week or every month their dues to leave them alone.
So bad. There's so much corruption.
That was the cost of doing business.
New York in the 20s, man. It's a wild place.
St. Clair did it, and she didn't, that was just how it was. And so she's paying her fees, right? And Schultz has deeper pockets, though, and he keeps putting pressure on the police, and they start arresting Harlem numbers runners
come on.
On the regular.
It's not hurting anybody,
So Schultz starts putting pressure on Harlem, the police officers, to start arresting people in Harlem. And you know what St. Clair does is she publishes some letters in the paper and writes to the mayor and says, hey, listen, I'm paying the cops just like the white men are. How come you're only arresting my runners?
I don't know what's the best thing to admit this, but okay.
She doesn't care. It's unfair, and and plus they're getting brutalized. It's not, it's not like getting a speeding ticket, and so she just calls it out. Hey, this is what's happening. What's your problem?
Yeah,
and she's very vocal about it. So Schultz doesn't love that, and then the police actually raid St. Clair in 1929. They steal money from her, and they charge her with possession of betting slips, which essentially is just, hey, you're speaking out about the police corruption, and Schultz has pushed us to do this. So she's sentenced to an indefinite amount of time in a workhouse.
What?
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I'm telling you, St. Clair is a genius. So at that time, there was actually an investigation going on called the Seabury investigation, and it was investigating police and politicians and their connection to urban crimes.
In New York?
Yes. So after about 8 months, St. Clair strikes a deal. And she says, I'll tell you who's corrupt. Let me out. And they agree. And she testifies, and at least 12 people went to jail because of her appearing in court. She tells them all the judges she's paid, all the lieutenants, all the officers.
Oh, shoot.
And she does it in a fur coat and jewels.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does.
I can see
and she's like, she's really
always that really
putting
cute
herself out there.
headband that they wear in the 20s too.
Oh, she had some cool hats.
Oh, yeah, maybe a feather.
Yeah. So she's putting herself out there, but it's important to her, and
she's going to become a target.
Yeah, she does. Schultz is not pleased. So
don't mess with my dad.
I know. So around an hour into the early 1930s, and now Schultz is just wanting to get rid of St. Clair. So he asks one of her friends, hey, I'll pay you, I forget the amount, but I'll pay you this much money if you bring St. Clair to your apartment, and I'll take care of her there. Mm-hmm. The friend runs to St. Clair and tells her. And St. Clair goes to the police, and the police, She goes to the courthouse. The judge says, She goes to the mayor's office. They don't even let her see the mayor. They don't help her. So she says, fine.
They need her own force.
I've got my secret weapon. Gosh, you're really onto this. You got it. I've got my secret weapon, and he'll be out of jail in just a minute, and then I'll take care of this. Oh. So at the time, her main bodyguard, was in prison, and he was about to get out. Yeah. His name is, he has a great nickname. His name is Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson.
Ellsworth Bumpy?
Bumpy.
Johnson.
Yeah, so Bumpy's his name. It's just, I guess I read it was because he had a bump on his head. Which isn't that exciting because it's probably just a benign cyst. So it's not exciting. But
all right.
I don't know. Which makes you think what do you think your name would be in the gangster world?
I don't
Peaches.
Even want to know. Peaches. Like that.
Peaches Powell.
Peaches Powell. Don't mess with her. She gets stabby.
Yeah, you would. So anyway, so Schultz is doing all this stuff, ordering a hit on her life, and you'd think, a lot of people might say, let's lay low for a minute. She takes a megaphone and goes to the corner of the street and says, I'm going to defeat this guy, and I'm not letting him take over Harlem.
I love her.
What he's doing so brave. Yeah, at this point, a lot of her other competitors have acquiesced to this, and are paying Schultz, a portion of it to not bother them.
Not her.
And she says, nope, I'm not doing it. And because what he's doing is he's paying you, but then she said he was setting up people to mug the winners after they won and taking their money back. Yeah.
Wow.
So she says, I'm not doing it. So Bumpy gets out, and they wage war against Schultz, and they need funding for it. And she says, I don't care. Well, we're spending our money on this.
Let's do it.
And she gets some people in the community to help and back her up.
It's a turf war. It's so exciting.
It really is. She's not taking anything. And they start, Schultz is attacking her number of runners.
Yeah.
She's attacking his. it's said that he ordered several hits on her. One story says he came after her, not him personally, but one of his guys, and she actually hid in the basement of her building. She lived in a very ritzy apartment building in Harlem.
I can see it.
Yeah, and she actually hid in the basement, and the superintendent buried her in coal to hide her until they went away.
Wow.
And then another time, he sent somebody after her to intimidate her, and she got the upper hand and shoved him in the closet and locked the door and told her bodyguards to just take care of it. And walked out.
Oh, bye.
Yeah, so she must have been pretty strong too.
Yeah. God, I could see her shoulders. I mean, covered in a furred little coat thing, but she's got strong shoulders.
I like how you're like, I can see her shoulders, man. Those deltoids are popping. She's not taking any of this crap.
I love it.
So I don't know, but she had to be pretty strong to overpower all these people. And they're also her and Bumpy, I mean the crew, are vandalizing the stores where Schultz takes bets, vice versa. It's going back and forth. It's serious. She probably was thought to have spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on this to fund this.
I mean, it's a war, basically.
It was. And I told you before that Schultz worked with Lucky Luciano.
Yep.
And he got too out of control. He didn't love him. So what ended up happening is Luciano put out a hit on Schultz, and he was gunned down in 1935. Don't
mess with the Italians.
And do you know what St. Clair did?
What?
Some say it was a telegram, others say she hand-delivered it, but she pinned a note to his unconscious body as he lay dying that read, "As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Whoa. Madam Queen of Policy."
Oh, dang, dude.
And she jetted. Yeah.
That is boss level.
Yeah, she was not, that was just, that problem came to an end.
Sure did.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So, unfortunately, though, what ended up happening, it's a little convoluted, but Luciano and Bumpy tried to figure out an arrangement after Schultz was out of the picture.
Okay.
And at first, Luciano wanted to just have Bumpy join his crew, and Bumpy didn't want to. So what they decided on is that all of the bankers who had joined before would stay joined with Luciano, who now overtook Schultz's area. And all the bankers who were independent, like St. Clair, would stay independent.
Yep.
But Bumpy would get a cut of what happened in Harlem, and Luciano would get a cut. And St. Clair was furious.
I'm not surprised.
Furious, because now Bumpy is, I know, now he's like too powerful to be her bodyguard.
Right.
And she's not happy, but there's nothing with him gone. There's not much she can do. So she has to kind of accept accept the terms. I mean, she still gets to operate independently. Some people liked the deal because it brought peace back in a way, in that sense. But St. Clair was not happy. She wanted total independence.
Yeah.
And this took a little bit of her independence away. Yeah. So she stepped back a little bit at this point, and I think she was probably heartbroken over this. I don't think they were involved, but just that betrayal that she felt. And so what happened is, I don't know if it's coincidence or what, but she found a man that she wanted to be with. His name was Sufi Abdul Hamid. And he's interesting because he was very outspoken. So this whole time, right, St. Clair she's not shying away from her power and her notoriety. She is constantly speaking out against police brutality.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Corruption.
Yeah.
She's writing letters in the paper that informs the Harlem community of their rights. So hey, if you're asked to have your house searched,
in the 20s and 30s,
I know,
crazy.
I know.
You'd think
Here
this would
are
happen
your rights.
in the 60s.
I know. She's unbelievably brave and just so smart. So telling them like their voting rights, search rights, all this stuff. So Sufi, was very outspoken. However, he would do things like organize protests outside of establishments that didn't allow Black people to work there,
Okay.
or at stores that were only for Black people but owned by white people, right? He would
Interesting.
do protests and things like that. But at the same time, he had a lot of hateful things to say about the Jewish community.
Oh, not a good look. Not perfect.
Yeah, it's this weird, just one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was really outspoken and kind of over the top. And
Yikes. And
they
that's
only
in the
dated.
30s. It's a bad time.
Yeah, they only dated for about 2 months, and then they got married.
Oh, it's moving fast.
Sufi was probably in his early 30s. I have no idea how. Nobody knows how
Right.
old
We
Madam
don't know.
was.
I feel like she's
I mean,
30 at this point.
No, gosh, she's at least in her 40s.
Really?
Yeah, they guess probably her late 40s.
Wow.
I mean, she can pull that off. Come on
Yeah,
now.
she sure can. I mean, with those shoulders and that cape.
Alana, to be clear, Alana's never seen a picture of her. I'm going to send you one in a minute, though, because she is pretty awesome. We just know she's strong in every sense, right? So they get married, and in 1938, in January of 1938, she finds out that, or she starts to suspect that Sufi is cheating on her.
Great.
And this
Why
woman,
would you? That's so ballsy to do. She's basically like a gang boss.
I know. I would say that's stupid to
Yeah.
do, but and she deserves more respect than that.
Yeah. Teach him a lesson.
So you can imagine how this is going to go.
Oh, I'm so excited.
He is actually having an affair with a woman named Dorothy Matthews, who is a fortune teller.
I'm done.
She's also in the book that LaShawn Harris wrote, ironically. So, yeah. And St. Clair had actually lent Sufi money certain times. So this does not sit well at all.
Beat his ass.
Yeah, well, Sufi has an appointment with his lawyer, and there's a lot of different accounts of what happened. I'm going to go with what was in the book.
Horsehead.
When he arrived, St. Clair was there with a gun. Like, you're going to have to give me everything back that you took, buddy. We're done. And he approached her, and she fired. She fired 3 times.
Where?
The first bullet grazed his mouth and chipped a tooth. The second went through his jacket. And the third one missed him altogether. So he actually survived.
So she wasn't trying to kill him?
Well, that's what she says. So Sufi actually didn't even want to press charges. He was probably scared out of his mind.
Yeah, probably.
But the police obviously showed up and, so they arrested her for first-degree assault and possession of a deadly weapon. Yes. And she said that's not what happened. She said Sufi had the gun and they were fighting and it went off in the struggle.
3 times.
And that's 3 times. 3 times before she could get it from him or he could get it from her, whatever. And she said, if I had wanted him dead, he would be dead.
Yeah, she did.
Which I kind of believe, honestly.
I do too. That's what I'm saying. That's why immediately she wasn't trying to kill him.
She has so many people who she could have just had do it for her.
Yeah, easy.
Also,
how much would that
I don't
hurt? Know. Like getting a bullet in the mouth? Get your teeth.
He's fine.
I mean, it'd be ripping up anyways.
I think it just grazed him.
That would hurt, fine. Though. Imagine a bullet against your tooth. That's a terrible feeling.
I mean, to be honest, I use Sensodyne and have trouble with hot tea. So, I mean, this is, again, nothing is for me here. Like, I'm not going to be a pirate. I'm not going to be an outlaw.
Not a gangster.
I'm not going to be a numbers runner. Like, It's just different,
You're dearest
different
Abigail.
threshold. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't even think I'm dearest Abigail. I am dying from typhoid before I even hit my teens. Done. Anyway, so she gets charged, and anywhere from 2 to 10 years in prison is what she's sentenced to.
Oh man.
And before, as she's sentenced, she's sentenced, she said, "Well, he did me wrong," and I'm paraphrasing, but he did me wrong, and he'll get what he deserves.
Yeah, he
And
will.
later that year, he actually died in a plane crash. And everybody said that St. Clair was the fortune teller of this
Oh yeah.
event, right?
Wow.
So after this big last episode, she kind of disappears again.
So, but is she in jail for this? How
She
long?
goes to jail. They think that she probably got released by the early 1940s.
Okay.
So she probably only
So we're in World
served
War II.
two-ish years. And they think that she was just so over it with Bumpy and then Sophie, the
Yeah.
back-to-back betrayals. She just kind of disappeared.
F all y'all.
And nobody knows what happened. They think most likely that she died in 1969 in Harlem.
Really? And we just don't know how she spent the rest of her life.
Yeah. She seemed to be a woman who could disappear if she wanted to.
Right.
There's nothing known about her for her early life. And then when she is doing well in the numbers game, she's writing to the newspapers all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very vocal. And then she just disappeared.
Wow.
Nobody knows how she died.
Really?
They don't know if she was sick or just, I mean, it could have been old age because nobody knows her age.
Also that.
Nobody knows.
69. She would have seen the world change quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, did you say she died in Harlem?
That's what they think. They don't even know that for sure.
They don't know where she's
buried.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
She had like an explosive life.
Yeah, she did. But I mean, think of everything it took for her to do all of that. She's got to be smart, right? She has to have that business sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just to be tough.
Yeah.
As all get out. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And she was doing so much for the community. I mean, like you said,
that's a cool part.
Yeah, she's doing stuff that, you're not really seeing or hearing about. She was speaking out against same stuff that we're battling today.
Mm-hmm. It's really
corruption
really cool.
and brutality, and yeah,
I want to see
awesome.
a picture of her.
Oh, I text you a picture. So this picture, this was taken after her fight with Sophie. And isn't she awesome? Did you find it?
Yes.
Yeah, she's in
look
an
at
evening.
her face.
We'll post it.
No, you can't get anything past her.
She'll
sniff out your bullshit.
Yeah, she looks fantastic. She's beautiful, but she also looks like I know everything that you just thought.
Do not
and I'll kill you.
That
she doesn't look
too. It's like
it's like
a mix between fashion and gangster.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's as though she took the traditional mobster hat and then gave it her own feminine flair.
Yeah. And those
now, if
earrings.
you zoom in, you see the bandage on her hand?
Yeah.
That was thought to be from the fight with Sophie.
Oh.
She said he bit her.
Ew.
I mean, he could have bit her or she could have just punched him. Both would have been.
I love her so much.
I know. I'm glad she survived.
Yeah,
I'm glad she only served 2 years,
Yeah.
but I hope I don't know. Who knows? I bet you she was doing some stuff in the background because she had the unique ability to do stuff without credit as well. Just like I watched, in addition to reading the book and reading articles, I also watched, what's it called? Celebrity Crime Files, Lady Gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
And she was featured and they said, she was known to donate and take care of things under the radar. So I wonder how much she was actually doing in the background in her later years.
That's so cool. What a mastermind. It would have been so cool to interview her.
Gosh, I mean, I would have been. I'm not cool enough, but you could have.
I don't know. You know how
She's
giggly
so.
I get when I'm nervous.
I know, she's so cool. And you know what I was thinking? Her and Helen Ruth Spence, who are the two I said I told you about, they were alive at the same time.
In very different worlds. Freaking river people versus Harlem, New York.
But don't you think it's possible that St. Clair read about Helen Ruth Spence?
I mean, it was a big case.
It was a big case. It was in the newspapers. The media went wild with it. I bet you St. Clair was just sitting there saying, you go. Like, run for it. Get out of that. Go. I bet she was rooting for her.
She's just so cool.
I know. Yeah, she really is. I mean, in every picture of her, there's not a lot of pictures of her, but in every picture of her, she looks like that. The one I just shared with you, which is just oozing self-confidence and coolness. And she also looks really, really good. Like, she's always dressed nicely, always got furs or jewels or something.
She looks strong too. You can see
yeah, she actually does. That's why I laugh when her muscles. Alana's also a personal trainer, so she's really into the muscles. But yes, she does look strong. You can't really see her shoulders in this because her sleeves are a little bit puffy. But yes, she looks strong. Like, she could fight you if she needed to.
Man, are there movies?
Which is why I say she really walked that. What's that?
Are there movies about her?
No.
Come on, this is such a good movie.
Yeah, she's featured in some movies about other number of runners are like the main characters, but a producer did buy the life rights, I read in one of the articles, so maybe.
Get it together, producer. Come on. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
I know. I have to agree, though, that I don't think that she was trying to murder Sufi.
No, she would have done it. I mean, look at her legacy. Like, she was the Harlem gangster boss. Like, she ran the show. If she wanted to take care of somebody, they'd get taken care of.
Yeah, and she's so smart that I think that she would have done it in a way where she wouldn't have. I don't know what happened to him. I was over here that day.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she just was mad.
Yeah.
And confronted him, and the fact that he wasn't going to press charges is interesting too. I don't know if you get to make that call when somebody's shooting at you, but
schmuck.
Yeah. So there's not a lot on her, and she's so amazing.
She's really cool.
Yeah, I love that, somebody is after, literally your life is at risk, your business is at risk, and your reaction is, give me a megaphone, I'm
yeah, instead of just like bowing down and like paying the price.
I'm going down the street corner and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do is defeat that guy.
And she did.
Yeah, I mean, well, Lucky ended it finally, but
Luciano.
She did not. I mean, that was years of fighting.
Yeah. She's so cool. I can't believe, I feel like this should be like a movie.
Yeah. For sure. I agree. I hope it is one day. One day soon.
Wow. What a cool cat.
I know. Stephanie St. Clair.
Stephanie St. Clair. Madam Queen.
Madam Queen. She had a bunch of names. The Queen of, what did she say? How she signed the
Queen of Policy?
The nice note to, yeah, it was called Numbers or Policy.
Oh.
Because the slips were policies. But it essentially is just a lottery.
So cool.
Yeah. I love this one. The next week won't be as fun.
Okay.
I know. I really like the ones where you're really rooting for the criminal. I'm doing air quotes because she's just living her life. I wouldn't call her a criminal.
Yeah.
She's living her life,
exactly.
doing her thing.
She was making things work, and she was helping her community.
Yeah. I mean, if that whole stuff with Sufi hadn't happened, I wonder what would have.
Yeah.
What she would have done.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know. Yeah, so next week's won't be as fun. Sorry.
Okay.
You'll
And
probably have to bring your
you want me to have
earmuffs.
a fuller bodied tea?
Yeah, bring something with a lot of body
Okay.
next week. And do you have any last words?
I don't know. I was thinking, how do you think the World War II would have affected like gangster climates? Because a lot of the men would be sent overseas. And so does that creates like a vacuum. And I wonder if more women became like St. Clair.
More women filled it?
I don't know. I just think about that.
I'm sure somebody's done that research.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's my
You don't think about all the spaces that you don't think about, right? That get filled, like the whole, like we talked about the whole underground economy that still keeps going. Yeah. Well, maybe for another time. For our next podcast. History in World War II. We can do our Abigail voice. Dearest Abigail.
Man,
I'm writing today from the battle. Well, that would be later. Abigail's way later. She's a different World War. All right, cool. Well, you can find us on Instagram at
Tea Time Crimes.
You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
Yes, and rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
Follow us.
Yes, please. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.